Hello, Goa fans. Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 42 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I present in each episode one of my favorite tracks from the 90s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement, focusing largely on tracks right now from the 95 to 96 season. Now, not necessarily produced in that time, but tracks that I came across during that period. And that is the case with today's track, which I know was done in 94, but which was only released in 95. It's kind of fun how, this music that's so cutting edge and ahead of its time would sometimes be released a year later and was still ahead of its time. But that's the case in this one. And this is a track by the Infinity Project, Graham Wood and Rajaram, with engineering by Simon Posford. This was produced in 1994, and fun little trivia thing. The title, as it's been released, is different slightly from what the real title was. This track was released in August 1995 on this Tribal Science compilation. This was the second one on the Concept in Dance label that I got. There was that orange reddish one, which had a lot of ayahuasca and Man with No Name and voodoo people stuff on it. Sort of a legendary release with text inside by Paul Oakenfold. And this one has two tracks by the Infinity Project. And what's fascinating about this is that, the Infinity Project had Super Booster that was already on Dragonfly. They had already released their Tip Yellow compilation with Stimuli and Euphorica, and I'm trying to think if there's something else. There might be a third one. Oscillator. Yeah, there is. See, my memory does work sometimes. And so here we have two. There's Squidgy Atomica and Ego Shredder. I'm focusing on the first one, and the real title is actually not Squidgy Atomica, it's Squidgy Atomicus, as we can see here in Simon Posford's writing. So this is on a DAT that was given to Graham Wood. It says tip, new tracks, 94. And as you can see, it's hard figuring out where to hold this thing, right? There's Squidgy Atomicus, first one. I think somebody just misheard when somebody said Squidgy Atomicus and just put Squidgy Atomica and just put it with an A instead of a US. So maybe that's what happened, who knows? But I remember when I first met Graham in 2012 and he said it that way, I was like, hang on, what do you mean? And he's like, well, that's the title. I was like, that's not the way it was released. And we had a look. So anyway, look at what else is on here. So we've got Stimuli, Euphorica, then there's a Euphorica ambient mix, which is on, what's it on? Mystical Experiences, the first half of it. It actually then turns into a more kicking version. Then there's another flying dub mix, which is of Euphorica, which is a more of a live desk mix. Then there's Binary Neuronaut, but not Telepathy, which was also done in 94. And there's not Oscillator, which was also probably done around the same time. And then inside is Ego Shredder. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Ego Shredder. I don't think it's their most inspired one. So, I got this CD, as we all did. We all just bought everything that was coming out. And it was this golden era where it's like, oh my God, we can buy this music now. And of course, as soon as you see Prana and Psychaos and the Infinity Project, yoink, you're going to nab the CD. And Squidgy Atomicus was definitely one of my favorite ones immediately for many reasons. The rich harmonic language, it is really gorgeous. It's very orchestral in its sounds. It's dramatic, it's expansive. The shaping of the lines and the whole structure and the meandering storyline is really quite brilliant. It's just really different from anything else. And you know, there were a lot of different sounds back then, and I think there are now as well. I think we need to acknowledge that. I think there's a lot of same music, but there's also a lot of variety. But I think some of what's missing is a bit of the dramatic, orchestral, almost operatic style. And this one has it. I think it's very symphonic in its style. And we have a bit of flute in there as well. And I'll just note that Graham also played flute, not just Raj. This is Prishbongal. It's probably Raj is playing. I didn't actually touch in with the fellas to see, get all the details. So anyway, this was immediately one of my favorites from the CD. And I think it's just a brilliant, brilliant track, and we are going to listen to it now. So here we go. Squidgy Atomicus by the Infinity Project. That rubbery bass. Love that. Sort of laser-like thing. Just listen to this build-up. The kick coming in, and then listen to that, those voices. Again, just in that pattern. So again, how we have this harmonic stuff and these other sounds that aren't that are pitched, that they don't have a note. And we have the offbeat with the hi-hats. A very effective pause. Notice that groove. Totally tell that's Graham noodling around on the synth. What is that riff? Now it's going to repeat up an octave again. Really uplifting and celebratory and just, you know, exclamatory kind of celebration. This is really neat. Now listen how the note changes here. So again, we get that major minor oscillation that was so key with this early Goa. Again, just the way that riff repeats. Then a little mirroring up there. It really has this vocal sound almost to it, doesn't it? Then we get this darker, broodier sound. Of course, there's lots of dark and broody with tip anyway. All these things happening at the same time. Sounds a little bit like, I don't know, kind of pan flute sort of sounds as well, with those squelchy noises. And this riff repeating over and over. And then it's going to break up. Notice the change in articulation, so it goes smoothly and then detached. And then these chords, very emotional, really pulls at you. Then now we switch into this riff. Again, just the way that loops and just gets you in this hypnotic trance-like state. Now that comes back. Like, how many times is this repeated? We really lose track, right? Then now we get to hear that bass line in its full glory. Notice the note changes and then the rhythm. Just that one little note that goes up, and then there's some cool texture stuff here. Now we have those offbeat percussive elements dancing through. Hats come back. Just starts coming in. It starts getting louder and louder and closer and closer. Just hypnotic, isn't it? And this note, and then this slide down. And goes back up. Just that oscillation between those two notes. Now it's going to go into a very long outro. That riff going on and on. There's that flute. And that synth noodling, very reminiscent of what happens at the end of Telepathy. Really long outro, isn't it? I mean, that's just over 6 minutes. There's a whole lot of musical content going on there. Really, really rich. I mean, you get what I was talking about with it being orchestral. I mean, the sounds are orchestral. There's so many different instruments, it sounds like, right? Only they're not analog instruments except for that flute. You can call a synthesizer analog, but you know what I mean, not a physical instrument per se. So the sounds are really textured. There's those harmonic and melodic ones, and then there's those sounds that don't have a note, but they've got some kind of pitch and shaping and rhythm. And there's just a lot happening. And again, it's beautiful. You know, it's got catchy melodic riffs. It's singable, hummable. Not the easiest one to mix because of that, because of the textures being as they are. I did play this at ZNA in 2019 when I closed the Goa Guardians, and yeah, I played it in a combination of with a track that's going to be later in the series in the next season. And it works, but I mean, it's still a great track and people loved it. But again, you know, the texture and the style is very different from most of what was out there. This is where the Infinity Project was really just, again, one of those projects, no pun intended, it was just so far ahead of its time. I guess that's what you get when you're an Infinity Project. So it's wearing the shirt for them, by the way, today. So I don't know what else I can say about this. I just absolutely love this track. Shorter episode today because shorter track. So there we go. I'm going to sign off here and leave you with the entire beautiful production of the Infinity Project's Squidgy Atomicus.